So a very warm welcome to the kickoff of On Parasiting and the Parasite School. So it's today not only a kickoff of a week, it's actually a kickoff of a project which will last like a whole year. And I was just starting, so maybe you take over.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. As Jakob Margit mentioned, this is our kick-off event of our whole durational project On Parasiting, which will last around 1 year. This is the week where we introduce it to each other. It's also a week for exchange, for reflection, for discourse, for experimentation, for rehearsal, for some first attempts at understanding what parasitism is or what it can be. This has been a project that has been in the making for around 3 years already, at least in the form that it is currently. So it's been a lot of hard working, and it's really honoring and such a great pleasure to finally be able to introduce it to you for the first time.
Yeah, because also maybe to mention it, maybe usually when you work so long, you have really like an institution in the back end, but it was really coming of keeping on working, keeping trying, and now it's really for the reason somehow very, very special to start this. Also since it's for us not only like a discourse program or an exhibition, but it really comes out of of a political urge, really of an urge to think about how we can act politically in this time we're at, where it's maybe also not so easy to see what is like a political alternative. There are no narratives for that. So to see how we can work, create and act artistically, but also politically in this time. So it really comes out of this position. So it's for me really, and for us really dear to start this project with today and experiment what is possible in this position of the parasite. And so we thought also before giving now also a little bit insight what we mean also a bit with the parasite and introducing the whole program, to also give a bit of a background what's the motivation behind, because often I think it's not really shared sometimes in these conferences, why do you do something, but at least for me, and maybe Matilde also going to share in a second, it's really not so easy to differentiate the motivation from like a professional one to in a way a personal one. In my case, since I'm working on this topic since around 7 years, and it's like working through it, thinking through it, in a way nearly becoming a parasite. That's a bit how I feel, and regarding this, for the reason also this project is very somehow dear to me, and I feel very nervous also, because also maybe there's this fear that it becomes only maybe a discourse, it becomes only maybe a trendy topic. But for me it's not only about this, and that's always the question when you put it up in the public, what happens when you put something out. Yes, and I don't know if you also want to share a bit,
I think it's important that you mention also that this is a research topic that you've been engaged with for many years, I think by now almost 10 years. So this has a long, long work behind. Then around 3 years ago you've invited me, you shared a little bit with me this topic, and I was really fascinated and intrigued by it. It's a topic that is a little bit difficult to grasp. It has so many slippery slopes, it has so many intricacies, and this is also what we want to share here with you. So this was my entrance point, and this was also my motivation behind it. And throughout these 3 years, then I've been trying as a curator and a co-curator in this particular project, we've been trying to understand how to bring the modus operandi of the parasite as a methodological curatorial practice. So as a curatorial method, not only as a metaphor, something that then we ended up thinking a little bit about it, and then there's some illustrations of it, but really how to engage and how to bring this into practicality in a way. So I think this is it from our motivation. Let's not take too long, so we don't get too behind, because we have a really full day full of program, really packed, and we're so excited to be sharing it with you. But before moving on, then we want to share a little bit about the concept of the project, and then also what is going to happen in the next week, what is going to happen in the next year.
Yes, so for that we brought a bit like a a conceptual sheet. It looks maybe a bit chaotic, but I want to go a bit through it just to open up some questions. Of course, now we have like today, and we also have next weekend to really deepen different parts of this kind of topic. But of course, when you invite for On Parasiting, of course the question also comes directly, what do we mean with parasite? And there I want to mention, like quite at the beginning, that we really don't look at the term from this perspective maybe which comes directly to our head often, like through the biological sense. So of course I think that will be anyway present in our heads when we talk about it, this tick, the worm that comes back, but we really with our approach try to not go this direction, but really go back to its like 3,000-4,000 years history of its genealogical approach, starting in Greek with a term which was talking about eating next to the holy grain, to the table of the gods. So that's a bit where we come from. We later talk deep in it, but just that you already hear about it. So for us it's really about this parasite as a social and political figure. Like, and then also the last 30-40 years, seeing also this figure emerging like as the figure of the third. Like what you see here, the parasite as the figure which is really between inside and outside. It's in this kind of position in between, and we really want with this project to explore how is it to be in this position, how you can navigate what, and also how to bring that in a practice, not only to reflect, but really how to navigate in this kind of between situation, inside outside of systems, of categories, of resources, of hegemonies. So really explore what's possible. And also Anna Watkins-Fisher, who gonna talk later, also making the keynote, she talks also and has this argument that we always actually act out of the condition in which there is no outside. That's the situation. We are always already complicit and dependent. And that's the situation where we start with. So it's not about thinking, how can I go on the maybe moral safe ground of criticizing, of talking about something. No, but how is it to be involved, to be in this position, having access, but also being not totally integrated. So that's what we explore, and that's also what we mean then, or what also is the program, that the parasite is not a metaphor for us, it's like a practice. It's a method, so it's not that we only want to talk about this as a reflection tool, an analytical tool, but in a way how that is translating. And for a reason we talk about tactics and strategies. So how is the parasite managing to stay in this position? How is it being kicked out or not? Where is it failing? Where it's successful? And there, of course, becomes very fast also to a question of resources. But I think what we think is very important, if we think also about resistance or a different kind of practice, we have to think how we finance it, how we keep on doing it, how we can maintain like a long-term struggle. That's even more relevant now when we see the cultural cuts, when we see right-wing shifts. Like all these kind of political topics, I think resources are very core, and the parasite is also a specialist in that, to work with resources where usually you don't have access to. And another point here, the question of positionality. That's, I think, something also we probably discuss a lot. The question, out of which position can I parasite or act? And there comes very fast the question, okay, do I need a privilege to be a parasite? Is it like easier to work out of a privileged position? On the other side, you can also say, okay, you have more to lose. Like the people who have a lot of money don't want high taxes, but people who don't have money, they want high taxes. You know, like if you don't have a lot of resources, you also don't lose so much. So there's a question, and we claim a bit that the parasite can be a perspective how we, since it's always in a way there are parasites, that this is a perspective from which we can act from. Doesn't matter which kind of position we have always some kind of reference systems we're working with. So of course we have different kind of positionalities and privileges and so on, but that's somehow to find and search for this position in order to engage with them. And then, I don't know how much I'm in the time, but it's soon done. Then the other point, also because it's on parasiting, it's like it's not on parasite, it's really like with this notion of becoming. I mean, you know, like the question is not about it, something is a parasite. A parasite, we understand, is a relational term. That means like nothing per se or a priori can be a parasite. It's always in relation to. So something can be a parasite and the next moment it becomes the host, because it depends on the relation of power balance, who and the question of resources. So this kind of rationality we probably also always going to talk about in the different things. And so again, what we now want to do with this 1 week, but also with the whole year, to put it in practice and to see, okay, what are the limits, what are the risks of the parasite, and where is also that the parasite flips and just confirms and becomes really only complicit. That's always the risk that the parasite just confirms and reproduce what the parasite wants to maybe criticize or work with. And we see as a final point maybe the parasite really as a hopeful perspective, to think in the situation where we are, in this kind of dependency and complicity situation, about resisting, about a different way of engaging and acting. And that's what we hope with now, what Matilde is going to talk about, how we actually bring it to practice or try to bring it to practice. That we offer and we want to discuss together with. And just on the top, this whole question of morality or amorality, what we claim for the parasite, I think will be also, next Saturday we also have a whole panel on the ethics of the parasite, since of course when we understand morality as something which stabilizes society, and the parasite is often seen as amoral because it's not fitting to the concept how we want our society to be, then we think about embracing maybe this amoral position in order to be able to be stabilized. But maybe now we give it over to see, okay, what we actually do.
So how do we turn the scheme that basically Jakob Margit just mentioned, which is already very much of a sum up to the core of the whole theory behind this project, how do we turn this into a curatorial and artistic project? What is going to happen? What is this project really about, and how does it come to life? So we're here, we started with the Parasite School, but the project actually roots at the core that we invited 5 artists, or we've selected 5 artists through an open call to embody the methodology of the parasite through the framework of an employment position. So each of these artists have selected their own host systems, the system that they would like to parasite in, and where they could indeed take a position, an employment position. This can be a company or an organization, an institution, a non-profit organization, as we also have it. And for around 4 months, then they will try to parasite. Some will indeed parasite, or maybe all of them will be able to latch on. Maybe some will not. This is also part of the experimentation. We'll then be able to reflect on it. What was the difficulties, the challenges, and so on. But before they can actually infiltrate, there's knowledge that needs to be gained. People have to, or the parasites, they need to know their hosts, they need to know their strategies, they need to know their tactics, and how to adapt, how to recognize if they're being discovered or not, or how to try to go under the radar. For this, we've created this Parasite School, which starts today, and then we'll continue on with the symposium at Diffracht on next Saturday and Sunday. But in between, from Monday to Friday, there will also be an internal program. This is a rehearsal space, a collective safe space that is only available for the parasite artists who are already among us, but we're not disclosing them for, confidentiality protection, especially now that surveillance systems are so sophisticated. We need to protect them as much as we can so that they're not disclosed and the hosts don't catch them even before they attempt to get in. And then during this week, they will also go through, we provide with workshops, exchange sessions, reflections, discussions, common dinners, and so on, to create this collectivity of the parasite. The context, the backgrounds will be different, but there's a sharing, an importance in the shared experience that we want to make as a very important core of the project. So this is now. Then until November, they will be parasiting. They will be in these systems in their
You want to say
jobs.
a bit something about the systems to make it a bit more specific?
Yes. The job positions, or the let's say the systems, the host systems that they will be parasiting will be all very different. We have, for example, from many value transport company, we have international consulting firm. We have actually the German unemployment welfare system and the job center. We have Amazon warehouses in Germany as well, already in contrast or in comparison with the US system, warehouse systems as well. And we have the buzzer economy and social, political, manufactured opinion. So each artist will go into one of these systems. Like I said, they've chosen it themselves and will try to parasite, or some might already have been attempting to parasite these systems. The infiltration phase will end then in November at the Parasite Residency and Process Exhibition, which will be again hosted here at ZKU. So for a month, then the artists will return from their infiltration places and they will be here kind of exchanging, but also producing a new work, reflecting on their own experiences, both individual and eventually the common ones. What were the similarities? Where were the parallel points? Or where were also the differences? Where does it split? And it will also culminate in a process exhibition that we can tell you more about it later on, also if you subscribe to our newsletter, but it will be on the 26th of November. And then it will end, the whole project will then culminate on a parasiting exhibition in spring 2027, which will then still be confirmed. But this exhibition will be a large-scale group survey exhibition on the topic of parasite art. So it will also include these 5 artists and their new commissioned works that they've been developing here at ZKU, but it will also include other examples and positions of parasite art from contemporary practice and also from the past few decades of parasite art where it has been already operating.
Yeah, maybe to add one thing, throughout the phase of the parasiting, we also created, I think that's conceptually important, like a so-called parasite job center, which comes like a own entity which consists of a lawyer, a coach, like a system counselor, and an ethnographer who somehow support the artist in this kind of guide them through this way. And another aspect of the parasite job center is the question also what we mentioned before, the question of collectivity. So is the parasitic only a way of individual infiltration and action, or is there also a way of redistribution? So the artists are also free to share one part of their income to a collective pot, and then if somebody gets kicked out earlier or whatever, then there's a kind of solidarity system. So that's also in a way, again, thinking about resources and thinking about how you can also collectivize and start to think even maybe to organize such whole programs through this kind of approach, where maybe there's no funding anymore. So really also thinking in this kind of situation where we are, where money becomes more dependent on political positioning, if it's more on, we know if it's about the genocide or if it's other topics, it becomes more difficult sometimes. So it's really also thinking how we can find other ways of financing. Yeah.